Dave Smith back with you here on another edition of Dave Smith Unleashed. Of course, thanks to our great sponsor, MTS Transportations, and of course, all you subscribers as well. As we're hitting on about 3,000 now in less than 3 months. So we appreciate all the support, all the subscribers who like and comment, and our sponsor as well. And always bringing on the great guest of Dave Smith Unleashed. And I think you know me over the years and all my years on local and national radio. I love talking boxing. And I'm so excited about this show coming up on September 13th at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, an outdoor football venue, kind of like the old days. So this ought to be a huge crowd. It's on Netflix, which means there's no excuse for not being able to afford it because we're all Netflix members anyway. And how about Bud Crawford, Canelo Alvarez in the main event, probably in the biggest fight in years. But the undercard, I think there's some better fights on the undercard than we'll see in the main event. And so let's bring him on right now, an old friend of the show from 360 Promotions. And remember, promoting the Klitschko brothers and Gennadiy Golovkin, and part of the show on the 13th as well. And also, we always love the Hollywood Fight Nights, his monthly shows he puts together as well. It's the great Tom Loeffler. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Dave. It's great to talk to you again.
Well, I'm telling you, the main event, of course, we're all excited about with Bud Crawford and Canelo Alvarez on the 13th. But this undercard that you put together, I tell you what, Sergey Bohachuk and the rematch with the Brandon Adams after their great first fight that Sergey was dominating until he got stopped in the 8th round. And then King Callum Walsh, undefeated from Ireland against Fernando Vargas Jr., who's 17-0. Those undercard fights might have more action and be better than the main event. This is a great show for boxing fans.
This really covers it all, Dave. Don't need to really say much about Canelo Crawford. That's two icons fighting each other in the ring. But when you look at the undercard fights, you got Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr.
Yeah,
two undefeated young rising stars with big fan bases. And this is exactly what Dana was talking about. The boxing needs is boxing's biggest problem over the years has been fans don't get to see the fights.
Yes,
when they want to see the fights. And this is the type of matchup that both guys agreed to take. It's on a huge platform on Netflix, going to be shown worldwide, and in the big stadium, Allegiant Stadium. So it's a tremendous matchup. And then, as you alluded to, the rematch with Bohachuk and Brandon Adams, that was an all-action fight.
Yes,
Bohachuk was winning that fight and got caught by a big left hook with Brandon Adams. Very dangerous fight. Bohachuk's rated number 1 in the WBC and mandatory challenger, and so he wanted to erase that loss off his record, or at least make up for it. So that's an exciting fight. Then also have Christian Mbili against Lester Martinez, 2 undefeated super middleweights, and that'll be a banger. And then one of the fights I'm excited about is to see Ivan Dichko, a 6'9" heavyweight out of Kazakhstan. Through Triple G, I have a great connection with Kazakhstan, but he's fighting Jermaine Franklin, who's been in there against Anthony Joshua and never been stopped before. So that should be a good test for Dichko, and we'll see if he lives up to the hype.
Let's talk about the one undercard fight. One of the guys you're promoting, King Callum Walsh out of Ireland, 14-0, an exciting fighter, of course, fighting with that Irish style. And, you talk about a great boxing name, a legendary name, Fernando Vargas Jr. He's 17-0. He's a southpaw who comes forward and bangs. So this promises to be an all-action fight. I doubt this one goes the distance, and I can't wait to see this because, Fernando Jr., and I think a lot of people don't know, his 2 brothers, Amato and Emiliano, all 3 Vargas sons are all professional fighters. They're all undefeated, and they're all doing very well.
Yeah, they call it the Vargas dynasty.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with the Vargas family, with Fernando Sr., and I helped Junior actually get a few of his fights early on in his career, and same with Amato. So this is one of those fights. It's getting a lot of hype on social media. A lot of the fan reaction is really strong with it, because they have both passionate fan bases. Callum Walsh fought at Madison Square Garden 3 times. He fought in Dublin. He headlined the 3 Arena out there. He fought in Boston. He fought in LA a number of times, and he's trained by Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach. So,
there you go.
He's got that. Yeah, he's got that Irish swagger, large fan base, and then the Vargas family name. Everything that Fernando Sr. accomplished, and then now Fernando Jr. getting in the ring on the biggest card that we've seen in boxing in a long time. this is really going to be a special treat for the fans.
Now, when you look at these Vargas boys, I think all of them have the potential to be world champions, Fernando and Amato, and Fernando Jr., Amato, and Emiliano. But I think the youngest one, Emiliano, has superstar potential. When I watch him fight, I think he has a chance to go down as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in all of boxing. I think this kid's going to be a superstar if he keeps his head on straight.
Emiliano really looks like a special talent.
Yes.
I know him also very well, and he's really seems to be rising to the occasion every time he gets in the ring. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how his career progresses. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a world champion sooner than later.
Yep. King Calamal's Fernando Vargas Jr., that is going to be an all-out action, great fight. And the other one, we talked earlier about Sergey Bohachuk in his first fight against Brandon Adams. He's winning through 8 rounds, and he gets caught and gets stopped. Now the rematch is coming up on the undercard of Bud and Canelo. You look at Bohachuk, I thought he won that fight against Virgil Ortiz where they scored it the wrong way, in my opinion, the judges, and he was winning big against Adams before he got caught. So, well, he could easily be undefeated. Nobody's ever walked across that ring and beat him down yet. I thought he got robbed in his first loss, and he was winning big in the second one.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only loss that he considers is the Brandon Adams fight. We all thought, just like you said, we all thought that he should have gotten the decision against Virgil Ortiz. Yep. He was the defending champion. He knocked down Ortiz twice. And I don't know how the judges figured out a way to score against him because all the other rounds were close rounds. And so he doesn't really consider that a loss. But, Brandon Adams, he definitely wants to get that corrected on his record. There were some odd conditions out there in Puerto Rico when he was fighting. The referee had to stop the fight twice to wipe off the ring. And when you have a tall fighter like Bohachuk, that's a big disadvantage for him. So either way, this is going to be a barn burner. Brandon Adams is very confident. He feels like he beat him once, he can beat him again. So this will be one of those nonstop, all action type of fights. And Bohachuk really has a lot of motivation to get the win over Adams.
What kind of crowd are they expecting? Canelo always draws in the Hispanic audience, of course, and this fight's in Las Vegas with a large Hispanic community and close to California. And Bud Crawford, a popular fighter as well. This is why they're putting it outside in the football stadium at least. You think they could get 60, 65,000 maybe in there for that fight? What are the numbers they're looking at?
Yeah, I really do think it'll get over 60,000 people there. The first week, they sold 42,000 tickets. So it really looks like it's trending towards being sold out, and it's going to be a tremendous atmosphere over there when you look at the Raiders and that brand new stadium. And it really, when I see some of the production details of what they're planning on doing, on the UFC side over here on the production, and then Netflix and everything like that, it's going to be a fun show from an atmosphere standpoint in the stadium and in the ring itself. It'll be nonstop action.
And if Raider Nation shows up, all the Raider fans there, we could have more action and better fights up in the stands than down in the ring, Tom, on that night.
Yeah, the Raider Nation is known for their fights in the stands. So I think it's gotten a little better here in Vegas than it was in Oakland. But I remember going to see them at the Coliseum when they were playing in LA. But it's a great stadium, and
yes.
It's going to be a great atmosphere out there.
Do you have a prediction on the main event, Tom? I'm kind of going against the grain here. I like Bud in this fight. I know he struggled in his last fight against that Russian guy, but that guy is somebody who presses and comes forward and has a great chin and puts his head on your chest. Canelo doesn't really fight that way. He's more of a counterpuncher throughout his career. I think he's going to. I know he's coming up 2 weight classes here, but he walks around at 170, 175, and I've seen him working out, and he looks strong, and he still looks lean at this heavier weight. I think he's going to give Canelo a Floyd Mayweather-type boxing lesson come September 13th. I like Bud in this fight.
I really think that could go either way. I'm very familiar with Canelo with the 3 Triple G fights we did with Canelo. I think he slowed down since the Triple G fights. Bud, you can't take anything away from him. He's got one of the highest ring IQs that I've seen, and he's got that mean streak in him where he just wants to bite down and really hurt you during a fight. Because of the stage that it's on, and Canelo's been there before. And naturally with the weight difference, I don't think the weight's going to be that much because Bud probably walks around at that weight and maybe loses a couple pounds to make 168. So he'll be right there at the fighting weight. That's what happened with Triple G when Triple G was sparring and he was coming down to 160 and he'd be right around 165, 168. Abel always said that was his strongest weight. So I would lean towards Canelo in this fight, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Bud is able to, use his boxing skills and his speed and his movement to outbox Canelo.
Dave Smith Unleashed with our special guest, the great Tom Loeffler, promoting the undercard of the big show coming up on September 13th on Netflix, Terrence Crawford against Canelo Alvarez. All right, let's take a break here right now and hear from our great sponsor, MTS Transportations. Dave Smith Unleashed brought to you by MTS Transportations. And mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment for all your shipping, trucking, and freight needs. There's only one business to call, and that's MTS Transportations at 800-640-6873. MTS Transportations, 800-640-6873. All right, we're back with Tom Loeffler promoting the undercard on the big show on the 13th. And this is, as we said before, this is so great for boxing fans, Tom, that we all have Netflix anyway, and they're not charging anything extra. It's not a pay-per-view, so we get to see, when you combine your undercard fights here, which I think could be better than the main event with Canelo and Terrence Crawford, this is the best fight card I can remember in years as a boxing fan. We're all excited about this.
And if you look at the depth of the show, Dave, it really has something for everyone on this show. And like you said, it's on Netflix and the preliminary fights where Boachuk is the main event on the preliminaries. That's open on YouTube and all the social media platforms across the UFC and WWE platforms. So it's really going to be real fan-friendly, real accessible to watch, not only here, but internationally. There's a number of international fighters on the show, and you really can't ask for more to be delivered. On a non-pay-per-view show like this, it's got some great matchups on it for sure.
Now, remember, when DAZN first came, DAZN, when DAZN first came into business, their whole business model was no pay-per-views ever. You pay $10 a month, or you can pay $99 for a year. Everything's covered, no pay-per-views, and that lasted about 2 months, Tom. And then everything's on pay-per-view over there now, so that was kind of misleading, false advertising. I hope Netflix doesn't fall into this and start doing big pay-per-views and charging $80 and $90 for their subscribers.
I don't think so. I think Netflix has the budget and the subscribers worldwide that, shows like this, when you do huge shows like this, where they're expected this to be probably the most viewed boxing event in history with the worldwide audience that Netflix has. It's a different financial model than what DAZN had. And I agree with you. I know there were a lot of frustrated fans where they subscribed at a low subscription rate, and then pretty soon all the top fights went to pay-per-view, and then the subscribers were scratching their heads like, what happened to the money I was paying for the subscription? So this is a completely different business model, and like I said, with this being the first promotion that Dana's actually involved in, I think you'll see a great show from top to bottom.
Yeah, and then you talked earlier about boxing fans. The frustration that we've always had is we don't get the fights we want to see, with promoters and networks all refusing to cross the street and do business with each other, which seems to be changing now. I know Turki Al-Sheikh is putting fights together, and now with Dana White entering the fray here, we're getting a great show here with Bud Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. And when people ask me all the time, well, why do people buy Jake Paul fights? And why do they follow? Well, I think he's filling a void, Tom, because if we don't get the fights we want to see, maybe we'll buy these circus acts like Jake Paul. I think that's probably why he's succeeding.
Yeah, I don't have a big issue with what Jake Paul's doing. A lot of people are saying he's taken away from, real boxers or whatever it is, or he's taken away from it. But, he's creating his own situation where he's creating his own TV deals. He's putting fighters on his undercards. They did that great show at Madison Square Garden, the trilogy with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. So, he's kind of creating his own situation. And you really touched on it. You got to give His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh a lot of credit for putting these type of fights together. to get Canelo to fight Crawford and vice versa, or all the great Usyk fights, against AJ or against Fury, those are the fights that the fans want to see. And this is one of those kind of fantasy matchups where Crawford was, top pound for pound guy at 147, and Canelo's been a top pound for pound guy at 160, now at 168. To get those two guys to fight is not easy. And Turki Al-Sheikh always figures out a way to put these type of fights together. And like I said, with Dana being involved and Nick Khan being involved, it's really going to be, a tremendous event.
Remember, Turkey was interviewed when he first got started here, and he said, I don't care about this not crossing the street or promoters or networks or stuff. I'm just going to do what it takes to get these. I'll just pay these guys enough. I'll just do an end run out of all of them and put these fights together. And how about his, he said he's sick and tired of Tom and Jerry fights. So he's going to put bonuses for a knockout. I mean, do you think that's a good idea to give extra bonuses if the fight ends in a knockout?
I like that idea, and Dana's used that system for the UFC, and I think it's worked really well. You get a guaranteed amount to fight, and then if you win, you get a win bonus. And if you have a knockout or a fight of the night type of bonus, it really gives the incentive of the fighters, or the reward for the fighters that really put on a great show for the fans. And I couldn't agree more with what Turki Al-Sheikh said about he doesn't want Tom and Jerry fights. That's one of the promises I made to Dana. Yeah. When we did deal with UFC Fight Pass, is all the fights that we do on our 360 shows on Fight Pass are all very competitive, all exciting fights. And, that he doesn't want the, 12-round boring decision fights that just aren't exciting for the fans. He wants guys to go in there and fight. And if you look at the lineup on September 13th,
oh yes,
there are no Tom and Jerry fights on that show.
What kind of impact do you think, yourself and Dana White and the TKO group, now that Dana's in the boxing business, what kind of impact do you think that's going to have on the fight game, and how good is that going to be for boxing fans?
Well, I really think he's going to bring a lot of energy, a lot of resources. When you look at everything that they have going up here at the UFC offices, I mean, just the amount of content that they put into promoting events, promoting fighters, all the social media that they do very successfully, better than anybody. It's amazing what he does on the UFC side. And then, if he translates that on the boxing side, I think he'll really bring, like I said, a great energy, a great momentum into the sport of boxing. And I think he'll bring it back to the mainstream. That's really what, it went from, network TV where you saw Ali fight, and then it went to HBO and Showtime, which was a smaller audience. And then it went to, after HBO and Showtime both got out of boxing, then it went on to DAZN. And each time it went into a smaller audience. And I think Dana is looking at really opening that back up to bring boxing to a wider audience and not have to pay, where the fans don't have to pay a pay-per-view just to see a good fight, where they can see it on a platform that's accessible. And then you'll bring it back. And even with the younger fans, you look at the demographics that Dana has with the UFC is much younger than the boxing. And I think he'll apply that same success to the sport of boxing.
Now, of course, still doing the Hollywood Fight Nights, boxing's best monthly series. You got a good one coming up on October 3rd at the Chumash Casino Indian Reservation that always put on good shows there. And I remember when you were doing, was it the Palladium? Is that what you were doing them before, Tom, when you were doing those shows in Hollywood every month?
Yeah, we started out at the Avalon in Hollywood, and that's where I got the name Hollywood Fight Nights. It was, it's a famous nightclub in Hollywood, and then it just grew from there. And then I did that the TV deal with Dana. Yeah, now we have 4 dates a year up there at Chumash. Beautiful up there, Santa Ynez. Yes, wine tasting country, great casino up there, and this will be the first show that Umar Jambekov, very marketable, very smart, light heavyweight from Vienna, Austria, is going to be headlining this show. He's a fan favorite. He trains at Wildcard Gym. Mm-hmm. He trains with Marvin Sodio over there at Freddie Roach's gym. And this will be a tremendous platform for Umar. And we're really looking forward to the first time where he's headlining the shows. And I owed you a great deal of gratitude. I told you this story before. Back in the 1980s at the Avalon, I was there for a concert one time, and I got into a fist fight with somebody. I don't know how it started. I got into a fight with somebody, and the bouncers dragged us both out into the parking lot in the back, and
One of them picked me up and threw me into the trash bin in the back, and he looked at me and said, "Don't ever come back here again, ever." So I was a little concerned when I went to one of your shows there a couple of years ago. I was thinking about wearing a disguise, but no problems, and I got right in. I think they've forgotten about me, Tom.
Yeah, that had a great atmosphere. It was had great electronics, the LED boards, and the sound system of being in the Hollywood nightclub. It just with the pandemic and everything, we outgrew that venue, and then we went into bigger and bigger venues. And like I said, Chumash is a tremendous casino now, a tremendous partner. They support the events 100% for the fans, and it's a great getaway. It's about 2 hours away from LA, just past Santa Barbara. And once you get up there, if you spend a day or two up there in Santa Ynez, it's a tremendous area right there by Solvang.
Yep,
I would highly recommend for the fans, Ventura County, LA County, to go up there.
My parents retired in Santa Maria, so and they still have a house there. It was only about a half hour away, so they used to love to go down to Chumash. And I tell you, for all the fans out there who've never been to Chumash Casino, the venue is great for a boxing match. They've got Vegas-style gambling in the casino. They've got big-name musical acts and shows going on all over the place. I mean, they do it right out there. That is a big-time place for an entertainment venue.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone that hasn't been up there should definitely go check it out. And it's like you said, it's a beautiful casino, and they treat you right up there. Great customer service, and it's really a nice day trip. Or you stay overnight, or a day or two. You go to Solvang, you go to Los Olivos, you go to Cachuma Lake. It's beautiful country up there. Like you said, Santa Maria is right up there. That's pretty.
How are the Klitschkos doing? I know you promoted both of them for years, and Vladimir and Vitaly, both long-time heavyweight champions, and I don't know, once the war started between Ukraine and Russia, I had you on the show, and you said you were greatly concerned because the word was that Vladimir Putin had a hit out on both of them, especially Vitaly, the mayor of Kyiv. How are they doing safety-wise, and are they still in Ukraine right now while the war is going on?
Dave, they're both still in Ukraine. I really was concerned when the war broke out. There were a lot of people predicting that Ukraine would fall or Kiev would fall in 3 days or a week, and that just shows you the fighting spirit and the fortitude that the Ukrainians have, especially Vladimir, Vitaly, both being heavyweight champions. Vitaly being the mayor of Kiev, both. They're both really high-profile guys over there, and that was my understanding, is that there was a hit list out, and they were towards the top of that when the war broke out. So I was very concerned. Vitaly's doing a great job as the mayor of Kiev. Hopefully, we can come to some resolution or some way to stop this war. It really does make sense on both sides. There's so many families that are intermarried where, the husband's from Russia, the wife's from Ukraine, or vice versa. And, it really doesn't make sense as close of a culture as they both have to then be shooting at each other. It really doesn't make any sense, especially when they're bombing civilian neighborhoods and hospitals and schools and things like that. So, hopefully we can come to some kind of stop to that war here as soon as possible.
Oh, Vitaly could be president one day. Who knows? They're saying Zelensky's probably not going to be president for too much longer. Maybe you think Vitaly one day could be the president of Ukraine? Didn't he try to run for that one time in the past, if I'm not mistaken?
I really think he could. I mean, I admire Vitaly, both as an athlete and as a person, everything he accomplished in the ring, but now in the political career, everything that he's accomplished, in literally the biggest fight both of their lives. And he's just holding down the city of Kiev and, the military defenses and everything like that. And it wouldn't surprise me if at some point he becomes president of Ukraine. But, first they have to stop this war, and then they can, kind of concentrate on everything else that's going on up there.
And you talk about tough people. Look, the Ukrainians have dominated boxing over the last 15 or 20 years. The Klitschko brothers held on to that heavyweight title forever. Now you've got Alexander Usyk, who's the unified heavyweight champion, one of the great heavyweights of all time, Lomachenko at a lower weight class. The Ukrainians, that's the center of the universe in boxing for the last 15 or 20 years.
They really have been dominant. And, Boachuk, who's fighting on this September 13th show, he's from Ukraine.
Oh, there you go.
In fact, he's got a very interesting story. That could be a Netflix story in itself, where he had to go back there to renew his visa. And he had his appointment, I think it was like March 14th, something like that. And then February 26th. So he was waiting there in Ukraine just to get for his appointment at the U.S. Embassy. And then February 26th, Putin invades the country. The U.S. Embassy closes. And now he's stuck over there for like 6 months.
Wow.
Before we can get, I had to get official approval from the Minister of Sports where he would allow him to leave the country to pursue his boxing career because he's a world-class athlete. So, we got him the official permission where he could leave Ukraine. Then he went to Poland, and then he had the visa approval, but he didn't. He needed to go to a U.S. Consulate in order to get the visa and the stamp and everything. And so then he was waiting in Poland for about a month. I remember just going. He went from one hotel to another hotel because they were all so full because so many refugees were crossing the border. And then he finally got his visa. And I remember him being so emotional once he landed at LAX. It was a really emotional thing where he came back to Los Angeles, was able to resume his boxing career. And that just gives him so much more motivation to fight, not only for his career, for his country and everything that it stands for. He's very proud to be Ukrainian. And I think that'll come through on September 13th show, as all those great fighters that you mentioned from Ukraine. They're really fighting for their survival, for the country's survival.
Speaking of Ukraine, where Alexander Usyk is universally regarded as the best heavyweight in the world and the heavyweight champion, I watched Moses Itama last weekend blasting Dillian White out there in less than 2 minutes. He's 20 years old. They're comparing him to Mike Tyson over there in England, the way, he's power in both hands. He really looks good. He looks like a great young prospect. If you're his promoter, Tom, right in there with Usyk for the title, or do you think he needs a little bit more seasoning, and that would be rushing him?
I mean, that guy's impressive.
Yes.
But if you look at a knockout over Dillian White versus Alexander Usyk, who's probably got the highest, I was talking about Terence Crawford's ring IQ. Usyk has the highest ring IQ that I've ever seen. When you can beat guys that are 20, 30 pounds heavier than you are and beat him consistently, beating Joshua twice, beating Fury twice, knocking out Dubois, who just knocked out Joshua. He's dominating the heavyweight division, and I don't think anyone can compete with Usyk at this point. He beat all the cruiserweights, all the top cruiserweights, all the champions, became undisputed champion at cruiserweight. Now he's undisputed champion at heavyweight. He was an Olympic gold medalist. I don't think there hasn't been someone to touch Usyk's accomplishments in a very, very long time. So with that young fighter that they have, I heard that they wanted to make the fight with Usyk right away.
Yeah.
And I would strongly advise against that. I mean, he looks good, but like I said, it's a huge leap from I think it was like a 40-year-old Dillian White to Usyk that's in this, just dominant in that division.
What they're talking about now is Andy Ruiz Jr. for Moses Itama. I think that's a pretty good matchup. He's got a really good chin. He's never been stopped. He got knocked down by Joshua, but he's never been stopped. And he's a guy maybe with his hand speed, and he's tricky and clever in there. He might be able to take Itama into the deep water and test his stamina and test his chin a little bit. I think that would be a really good test for Itama and his people.
Yeah, it could be. They got to take it one step at a time. He's young. Like you say, he's only 20 years old, so there's no need to rush him. Mike Tyson was 20 years old when he became heavyweight champion, but he's got a long career ahead of him. He could fight until he's another 15 years, until he's 35 or more. So I would definitely not rush him in there. I'd let him get a few more fights, get his experience up, and then and then at that point they can really kind of pick and choose their path, because with that last win, a lot of people are now talking about him, and I think he's got a very bright future if he continues to do what he's doing.
I saw a picture of Vladimir Klitschko, the fighter you promoted for years recently. He was on a paddleboard, Tom, and I've never seen him in better shape at 49 years old. He had 8-pack abs, muscles. He looked like he's in better shape now than when he was in fighting. And there's been talk. You talked about Tyson being the youngest heavyweight champion. Vlad can go back at 49 if, I know he doesn't want to fight his countryman Usyk, but if he fought someone else for the title and become the oldest title holder ever, would he seriously consider that? Because he is in fantastic condition.
Vladimir had accomplished so many things, 25 heavyweight championship title defenses, just dominated the heavyweight division for so long that, He really felt like he should have gotten the rematch against Tyson Fury after Fury had gotten that decision and then just like went off the rails and gained, 400 pounds and all that type of thing. It just, he never got that rematch. And, I think knowing Vladimir the way I know him, he would be intrigued to become the oldest heavyweight champion to set a record that way. And like you said, his physique, if anyone could do it, Vladimir could do it. He spars, he trains, and it's just he's in tremendous shape.
I was on Radio Row one time for a big fight. I think it was a Vladimir fight in Vegas, and I was interviewing him about a day or two before the fight. And I was just joking around, Tom. I don't know, you might have been there watching this. And I put my hands up and started throwing some jabs at him. I said, do you think you could ever penetrate this defense? This is impenetrable if you ever got in the ring with me. I didn't even finish the sentence, Tom. And he threw a right hand. He did it on purpose, and it just went over, and it hit me in the hair. I never saw it coming. It was so fast. And I said, oh my God. Thank God he wasn't serious. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's got very fast hands, especially for a big heavyweight like that. He's another Olympic gold medalist. And like I said, the heavyweight championship reign that he went on with the legendary Emmanuel Stewart in his corner was tremendous. Like you said, he would never fight Usyk as a countryman, but if there's ever a different belt out there that becomes available and he can fight him,
why not?
I could easily, I could imagine that happen. I always wanted him and Wilder to fight. I wanted him and Deontay to fight.
Yeah,
that would have been a great fight back then. And there's still, Vladimir can still compete with a lot of these guys on the top level.
Tom Loeffler, before we let you go here, tell us again, promote the September 13th fight, your guys on the undercard, and your upcoming Hollywood Fight Nights. Now we can all see it.
September 13th, live on Netflix from the legendary Allegiant Stadium up here, the home of the Raiders. Doesn't get any bigger than Canelo Crawford. Great undercard fights with Callum Walsh, Fernando Vargas Jr., Christian Bailey, Lester Martinez, the rematch of Sergey Bohachuk versus Brandon Adams. And we'll say Las Vegas debut of Ivan Klitschko against Jermaine Franklin. So that's got a little bit of something for everyone. It's going to be a tremendous show, exciting from top to bottom. And then our Hollywood Fight Night show at True Marsh Casino, live on UFC Fight Pass. That's October 3, up in the beautiful Santa Ynez Valley. So, make sure to catch both of those. UFC Fight Pass is also, I got to give them a plug. It's talking about combat sports platforms. It's definitely the biggest combat sports platform. They do over 220 events a year. Their annual subscription is $99, and the amount of programming content from boxing to MMA to jiu-jitsu to you name it, any type of competition sport is on there, and it's fun to watch the live fights, and the tremendous library they have on UFC Fight Pass is outstanding.
Always love Hollywood Fight Nights, and again, I appreciate that I wasn't banned for life at Avalon when I went to the show there a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget the bouncer holding me over the head with both hands, wrestling style. I must have flown 15 feet through the air before I landed into the trash bin there. So that was a fond memory of my life.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, it's a good thing you were undercover when you came to our the boxing event. So no, it was good. It was.
I already had loose teeth and a bloody nose also before I went into the trash bin, so that wasn't a good night.
Yeah, that was not the highlight there for sure, but no, it's good. Always good to talk boxing with you, Dave, and just excited about these shows coming up.
Oh, can't wait to have you on again to promote the next Hollywood Fight Nights and continued success. And September 13th, this is the best boxing show I can remember in years. And again, your guys on the undercard, I think both of those fights with Sergey Bohachuk and King Callum Walsh are going to have more action and be better than the main event. So I can't wait to see this on the 13th.
For sure. No, this will be a great card top to bottom. And that's the other thing that Dana White really emphasizes. He puts on great fights early on in the show, and that's why with the UFC shows you see fans there from the beginning of the fight night, and I think he'll bring that effect to the boxing as well.
There he is, the great Tom Loeffler. We appreciate having him on, and of course, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Dave Smith Unleashed, and subscribe and like and comment and do all of that, and follow me on X at Dave Sports God if you want to know when the next shows are coming up. And we always appreciate the subscribers and everybody listening, so stay tuned for the next Dave Smith Unleashed.